So I thought I had a visitor, and I accidentally canceled the video that I was recording, but at least now I know that I canceled it. Right? So he thinks I'm a ghost right now when I put on this mask here. I'm the ghost. Mommy, ghost. I'm the ghost. Ow! Right, Nico, say hi. Who's that? Who is that? Nico, who is that? Mommy. Right. He's not very interested in history right now. He's just interested in the ghost. But anyway, I'll get back to history. As I was saying, where was I? Here. All right. So I learned my lesson. Hitting escape to get out of presentation mode is actually what cancels the video. So I'm just not going to go into presentation mode anymore. Right? So imperialism. We talked about how that's going to be a cause for war. Another thing that caused World War I to happen were a system of complicated rivalries and alliances that lined up over the course of the 19th century, which also is 1800s, same thing. There are really, the factors here are way too complicated to get into all of them or to dig into the history of the ones that I have listed here. But I will describe at least the essential information about how these four different issues, two rivalries and two teams or alliances that formed that ended up being a major cause of World War I. So the first of the rivalries that I want to talk about is the rivalry between Germany and England, two of the most powerful countries in Europe in terms of their economy, in terms of their industry, in terms of their development, their advancement. Oh, so you want to hear about Germany and England as well? Oh, I see what's happening here. Mommy is putting on the mask. Okay. I see what's happening here. Anyway, all right, back to it. Germany and England are going to be two of the most powerful countries in Europe, and around the year 1890, the German ruler, who at this time is a young ruler, he had just then taken the throne, his name is William II. Sometimes you'll see him by his German name, Wilhelm. He's going to want to make an alliance with England, thinking that would be good for his country. However, England doesn't really like to make alliances with other countries at this point in time. England likes to be on their own, right? They live on an island, literally. They like to be on an island politically. They don't like to have close friends at this point in time because they know that having close friends would mean that they'd get sucked into other conflicts and issues that they don't want to be a part of, right? So England turns Germany down. But what perhaps they didn't realize, or maybe they didn't really care, probably more of that second one, is that Wilhelm II had a very notorious temper, right? He did not like to be told no. So when England said that they did not want to be in an alliance with Germany, instead of just letting it go, Wilhelm II decides to stir up trouble for England whenever he sees it to be possible, right? So with England, who has at this point the world's largest empire, and in fact they have the largest empire in the history of the world at this point in time, Germany is going to interfere with their colonies, with their shipping. He's going to go into different parts of their territory and try and limit their ability to trade there. He won't be super successful. Whenever England does have a rivalry with another country, Germany is going to openly take the side of their rival. For example, in the area today that we know as South Africa, England was fighting a war against a group of Dutch people who were in South Africa technically before the English were. Those people were called the Boers. And the Germans are openly going to take the side of the Dutch Boers in South Africa. But perhaps the thing that scared England the most and, fear is something that can certainly drive a country to war, which is why I mark it as the most important, was that Germany began specifically to develop a navy which they hoped would be able to challenge England's navy. Now, England had for centuries been Europe's and thereby the world's most powerful naval force. So when Germany comes out and says that it is their full intention to make a navy that could compete and perhaps even beat the British Navy, that's going to make the English quite scared. And they get into a kind of competition where each of the different countries, Germany and England, are going to do their best to build up their navy with the most powerful, most advanced, different kinds of battleships and things like that. And when you have two countries building weapons as fast as they can and basically pointing their guns at one another, that's going to be something that could be a cause for war. If we take a look here, in between the years 1906 and 1914, Great Britain and Germany's competition to build new Navy equipment can be perhaps best shown by their race to build this dreadnought class of battleship. It was the most advanced, largest, the most heavily defended sort of battleship that you could build at the time. And you can see that although England does have the lead in terms of building these overall and in most of the years, in the years 1908 and 1909, Germany does exceed how many of these battleships they're able to build, and in many other years they keep it close. So although Germany will not exceed the British Navy, they scared them enough to perhaps accelerate the rate at which Britain was building their own navy. Another rivalry I want to talk about is one that I talked about briefly in our last video before I accidentally canceled it, and that's the rivalry between Austria and Russia. Now, Austria and Russia had been pretty natural friends for most of the 1800s because they were both conservative countries. They both favored a strong dictator style of government where an emperor has as much control as possible. They're both going to be very religious countries. They're both going to be kind of behind the curve in industrialization. They're going to be kind of stuck in an agricultural farming way of life while the rest of Europe is developing into an industrial area, right? So they're pretty similar in terms of their countries. However, their friendship is going to be damaged as a result of a war that happens in the middle of the 1800s called the Crimean War. The Russians are going to be looking for territory in the area of what today is called Turkey. It was then called the Ottoman Empire. And other countries like England and France did not want Russia to become any more powerful than they already were. So England and France joined up with the Ottoman Empire to stop Russia from taking this territory. Russia then looked to their friends in Austria and asked for help, but Austria said that they did not want to get involved with the conflict. Russia ultimately lost that war, and Russia always held it against the Austrians, kind of blaming them for the loss of that war. So that's going to be a little bit of bad blood between them. And at the same time, what I had mentioned before was that Russia had a culture very similar to the culture of the people in the Balkan Peninsula. Specifically, they belonged to a large ethnic group called Slavs, or Slavic people. Slavic people, while different from one another, share many similar characteristics. Their languages are based on the same original language, like Latin, for example. But in this case, it was an original Slavic language that transformed into the languages we know today. Examples of Slavic languages today include Russian, Serbian, Czech, Slovenian, what else? Croatian, Bulgarian, Ukrainian, Polish. All of those are different examples of Slavic languages, and the people that speak those languages are Slavic people. Russia was the richest, largest, most powerful, most militarily advanced Slavic country. And as a result, they saw themselves as protector of the Slavs. So when you see Austria, who is now a rival of Russia, doing things that are offensive to the Slavic people, like the Serbians in the Balkan Peninsula, Russia kind of feels like it is their responsibility, their obligation to protect the Slavic people in that area. And indeed, the people in that area looked to Russia to support their efforts whenever it was possible for them to do so. So you have that tension developing between those two countries. Now, moving beyond the rivalries, we move into the alliances. And while these are friendships, the friendships that form basically force Europeans to take one of two sides. You're either going to be a friend to Team 1, the Central Powers, or a friend to Team 2, the Allied Powers, right? And when you have only two teams to choose from, it's kind of opposites, right? Different poles. And when there's no other team to fight against, it's really just one team against the other. And that's always going to be a situation that leads to conflict. When there's no one else to take out your aggression against, it's going to be the one other team in town. So let's talk about this first alliance system. It begins as what is called the Triple Alliance. When the war comes around, their name is going to change to the Central Powers. A little bit of history. Germany and Austria were friends for a long time. That makes sense, right? The Germans and the Austrians both speak German. While the Germans in Germany tended to be more Lutheran and the Austrians more Catholic, they were able to kind of look past those religious differences to get past that. And they were neighbors, so that helps too. Germany and Austria formed a secret defense agreement against Russia. It wasn't really secret. They kind of wanted Russia to know that they were a team so that Russia would be scared of them. But what the nature of this agreement was, and this is what makes all of these agreements we're going to talk about here and on the next slide so dangerous, is that they were a defense agreement, meaning that if a country attacked one of the countries on the team, the other countries on the team would also have to join that fight. So in this case, if Russia attacked Austria, Germany would agree to get into that fight, right? So we'll see how that ends up being a problem later on. 1882, Italy is going to join this team. However, they're not going to stay on the team. When the war comes around in 1914, Italy is going to say, hey, this agreement doesn't force us to fight. Whether or not that's true, who knows? But Italy is not going to go to war on that side. In fact, they're actually going to switch sides to fight against the Germans and the Austrians and with the British and the French and the Russians. And when the war does start in 1914, the Germans and the Austrians are going to be joined by the Ottoman Empire. If you remember, the Russians fought the Ottoman Empire about 60 years before World War I in the Crimean War. And that bad blood was not just from that war. The Ottoman Empire and the Russians had been fighting each other for the entire time that the Ottoman Empire had existed, since the 1400s. So